This One News update is brought to you by ANZ. We live in your world.
In Wellington, One News has exclusive pictures of a firefighter injured by the conditions. It's been a day of disruption in the capital, on the roads, water and in the air. Simon Bradwell reports.
In driving rain, a firefighter is carried by her concerned colleagues into a waiting ambulance. Just minutes earlier, she had suffered a back injury when a branch from this tree fell on her as she worked to clear it from this Wainuiomata house. Luckily, the injury is not thought to be serious. It's hoped she'll be out of hospital tomorrow. The tree was one of many felled in the capital by the ferocious winds. This one taking power lines down with it, crews taking the top off to prevent further damage. Keeping the electricity on a challenge in several parts of the region, while torrential rain and surface flooding made driving treacherous. In fact, travel anywhere around the capital severely restricted.
In the current weather conditions, your flight has been delayed.
Most flights from smaller centres delayed at best, cancelled at worst. With winds here at the airport gusting to 100 kilometres an hour, it's easy to see why there has been that disruption to flights. But the strongest gust of wind in the Wellington area this morning was an incredible 155 kilometres an hour. Even those on the big jets facing a white-knuckle ride into the storm. The strong winds whipping waves into a spectacular spray at nearby Lyell Bay. The inter-island ferry terminal's deserted, with the ferries docked for the day. Mud washing down the Hutt River, turning the harbour's blue waters brown. Debris covering nearby beaches, cleaning them and the rest of the city, will begin tomorrow. Simon Bradwell, One News.
This One News update is brought to you by ANZ. We live in your world. This One News update is brought to you by ANZ. We live in your world.
Kia ora, good evening. A severe weather warning remains in place tonight for parts of the country.
Many areas in the North Island and top of the South Island are still being battered by high winds, with tens of thousands of homes without power. The so-called weather bomb we warned you about yesterday wreaked havoc in the central North Island. The Taranaki region bore the brunt of the storm, with widespread damage in Hawera, Patea and Waverly. John Newton's been in the area since early this morning and he joins us now live. John.
Good evening. Well, the worst of the weather is over now, but the wind here is still making itself felt. It was a severe weather warning for the whole of the North Island, but the people of southern Taranaki and Wanganui could hardly have known that they were about to become the epicentre, with more than 50 homes losing their roofs. Running a gauntlet of flying roofing iron in Patea. Residents woken in the pre-dawn darkness by the violent destruction of their town.
This is pretty bad. Talking to a lot of people, they haven't seen anything like this before.
And Constable Wright and his family one of the hardest hit. High winds tearing the whole roof from his police department home.
When the roofs came off, it sounded like a massive thunderstorm. That's when we knew that it was probably going to be pretty bad.
And it was.
The water started leaking through the ceiling, into the kids' bedrooms and everywhere else.
The family evacuated to the police station. The number of houses, shops and farm buildings to have lost some or all of their roofs is still being assessed. But the cost of the damage is already estimated at millions of dollars.
We've got roofs completely off houses, fences blown over, we've got hay barns over, we've got a couple of shops in town. The front have virtually completely gone.
Down the road in Waverly Township, the storm blew the front wall out of the old town hall. Buildings in the main street also took a battering. After pulverising South Taranaki, the storm moved on here to Wanganui, where it's also taken a heavy toll. 9 roads in the area have been closed and there are numerous power outages. More than 30,000 customers in Taranaki and Wanganui regions are without electricity. And the lines company says it could be almost a week before some are restored.
First the power went out, it was pitch black. All you could hear was just breaking of trees and fences.
I was more worried about my son actually, because I had my son with me and he was quite scared.
Although many in South Taranaki and Wanganui will have been frightened by the unseasonable storm, police say they have so far received no reports of injuries. A big job now, cleaning up and repairing the damage.
So, John, you've lived in the region for years, a big hit for communities there. How do you think they'll fare?
Well, you know, I think the people of southern Taranaki are survivors. I think they're a hardy lot. And tomorrow we're going to see linesmen out racing to get these power lines back up. We're going to see roadmen clearing the roads again. And I think you'll probably see the locals out assessing the damage and getting ready to put their lives back together again.
All right, thank you. That's John Newton reporting from Wanganui tonight.
This One News Update is brought to you by ANZ. We live in your world. This One News Update is brought to you by ANZ. We live in your world.
A New Zealand river considered among the Western world's dirtiest is finally due to be cleaned up. It'll cost $30 million to start cleaning the Manawatu River, but as Heather Duplessis-Allen reports, a sewage plant accused of polluting it has no plans to stop.
The river, once dubbed the dirtiest in the Western world's about to get a $30 million clean-up. But that isn't stopping a controversial sewage treatment plant from continuing to dump its wastewater in the Manawatu River.
It's PR. You put $15 million into cleaning up rivers and you put $100 million into destroying rivers.
The sewage plant's drawn public criticism and been the subject of recent court action over accusations it's killing aquatic life. None of the clean-up money's destined for that plant. It will fund the upgrade of 6 other treatment plants dumping into the river and pay for 200 kilometres of fencing in a bid to stop farm runoff. That'll cost taxpayers $5.2 million. Ratepayers and the dairy industry will pitch in the remaining $25-odd million. The sewage plant will keep spewing treated sewage into the river until Palmerston North City Council's convinced it's polluting the water.
What we're doing at the moment is some further investigatory work with the Regional Council to discover whether or not it's providing water discharge quality that's good enough.
Now, those tests can't be done while the river is running as high as it is right now. This river's been too high all summer long, so the tests may have to wait until next summer. The government denies it's wasting money on a half-hearted clean-up.
We wouldn't be putting the money in if we thought there was not the genuine commitment from both the City Council and the Regional Council to resolve those issues. I'm satisfied with that.
So taxpayers will pour money into cleaning up the Manawatu River, even as potentially polluting sewage also pours in. Heather Duplessis-Allen, One News.
This One News Update is brought to you by ANZ. We live in your world. This One News Update is brought to you by ANZ. We live in your world.
Well, the eye of the storm later barreled through the Central Plateau, causing major disruption across the region. Charlotte Bellis travelled from Taupo to Wanganui to check out just how people were affected.
In a small remote house between Wairuru and Wanganui, the KERSEL family shelter from the violent weather.
Got really quite windy and the trees started to make quite a bit of racket and noise, and the house was shaking and shivering a little bit while I was lying in bed thinking, I wonder what's going to happen next.
Branches smashed down around their home as dawn broke, taking their power with it.
We actually moved out into the lounge because we were a little bit worried about this, just these few trees along here, coming down to this end of the house.
Not knowing when the power company will reach them, they're going back to basics.
Really just playing with my Lego and cars and all that.
The KERSEL's thanking farmers for clearing debris. The wind created an obstacle course for traffic on country roads. Here in Wairuru, power went out at 5 a.m. and has meant nearly all businesses in town have closed, with emergency generators being called in.
We've got a couple of generators doing our freezers and our food cabinets and our freezers out the back. We've got a generator turning up this afternoon to run the whole site.
The power issues left travellers running on empty.
It's just got progressively worse. Yeah, it's not very pleasant at the moment.
It's unfortunately Mother Nature, you can't do much about it when it just comes down.
Along the desert road, no sign of the usually prominent Mount Ruapehu. Around Lake Taupo, high winds kept things rocking. Ironman organisers who'd rescheduled today's event to tomorrow now bracing for possible snow on the hills tonight. Charlotte Bellis, One News.
This One News Update is brought to you by ANZ. We live in your world.
ora, good evening. Thousands of homes in storm-ravaged parts of the North Island remain without power tonight.
The Lines Company is scrambling to restore electricity to more than 5,000 customers. This includes dairy farmers who are struggling to milk cows without power. The full scale of the damage became clearer today for the residents of the Taranaki and Wanganui regions. Heather Duplessis Allen joins us now from the worst hit area, Patea. Heather.
Good evening. I'd like to show you just how strong the winds were during this storm. This building here used to have a veranda. That's been clean ripped off by those winds, and that veranda was supported by 4 cast iron pillars. This is one over here. This is really heavy. I can't actually lift that by myself. And what's more, it was actually bolted into the ground. So if the wind had enough force to pull those out, it's no surprise it was able to bring down power lines across South Taranaki. This generator's powering 7 dairy farms. With power out to this and neighbouring farms, it's the only source of electricity for milking hundreds of cows. It's been running nearly all day.
Pretty much 24 hours today since 3 o'clock this morning, and we'll be back here at 12, so 2 hours rest and then back into it again.
This is Matt Honeyfield's land, but these cows belong to his neighbour Alistair Honeyfield, a distant relative. Because his power's also out, he's walked his 320 dairy cows to be milked here.
Yeah, a bit of a hassle, but you've got to get the cows milked, so we'll just do it until the power's back.
PowerCo is concentrating on getting electricity on for animal welfare reasons to the farms at the moment, so cows can be milked.
We found one PowerCo crew trying to reconnect electricity to the bores that supply water to Wanganui. In total, they're scrambling to repair around 600 downed lines, some of them major supply cables. While it's mostly rural areas blacked out, some towns are also affected. In this Patea house, lights aren't working.
Roasted are going to go.
And the freezer's defrosting.
I'm a bit peeved off.
Oh, yeah?
Yep. Especially from the power companies really just saying, you know, it may be tomorrow or maybe 5 days down the track.
Which means no hot shower for Digger Lambeth when he's finished clearing his front yard. Back on the farm, the shed generator's on the move to the next milking shed.
We're off to Paul's place now, so he's going to put 2 herds through his shed and then we'll be back here again tonight.
Matt Honeyfield reckons they'll get today's generator-powered milking done around midnight.
Well, talking about midnight, Heather, the authorities will be working late into the night to try to restore power and water.
That's right. We're told by PowerCo that it is still trying to reconnect electricity to Wanganui's water bores. It says that's a really big job, but it's hoping to have that done this evening. And on another water issue, Federated Farmers says because some of those dairy farms haven't got any electricity, they aren't able to reticulate water for their cattle to drink. So Federated Farmers says if any dairy farmer is facing a real emergency, they should get in touch with a Hawera fire station who will deliver some water.
Thanks for that, Heather.
Patching up was high priority today, but it's a task which authorities say is likely to continue for several months. John Newton's visited many of those affected.
Clearing the roads and doing it as quickly and effectively as possible.
Nature's give us a blow, but we're going to keep going.
Mainly pine trees blocking roads and isolating country homes.
The sooner we get the roads open, the sooner people will be able to get out from where they are.
But for some farmers, their problems with pine trees run much deeper.
Couldn't believe it. It's, you know, these are 20-year-old trees and they've just been snapped like matchwood.
These trees are part of the Roger Dickey farms near Waverly. Besides the damage to his forests, he's also lost a house, 8 hay sheds and the roof from this workman's cottage.
You come back and it's open plan living.
Mobile dairy farm irrigators like this are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. But up and down the coast here, many of them have been tipped over like this and badly damaged. In Waverly, locals pulling together to clean up the marae. It's Kohanga Reo forced to close after its roof was hit by flying debris.
Until we can sort all that stuff out, our kohanga will not be able to open till probably a couple of weeks.
Firemen from throughout Taranaki began making temporary repairs to damaged houses at daylight. They expected to have them all closed in by tonight. The government is arranging for special relief for those in immediate need, especially in Patea.
This community's been hit in the past and it's less financially resilient than maybe some of the other communities.
The police too making checks throughout the community.
We've tried to call in on a lot of the elderly folk just to make sure that they're all right, and touch wood at this stage, we've had no injuries reported.
With that big plus, the repair job doesn't seem so overwhelming. John Newton, One News.
And just a bit of advice from the authorities to those of you in the affected area. If you need assistance, a drop-in centre has been set up at the Patea Old Folks Hall. Stay clear of damaged buildings, take care around loose power lines, treat them as live at all times, and try to conserve water in the Wanganui area as the water supply is under pressure.